let's move on, because now what we're starting to get into is the next area, which is epistemology. And epistemology is really the study of human knowledge. It's not knowledge itself. It's trying to understand knowledge and how it works. Okay? So where does knowledge come from? Anyone have an answer to that? From previous experiences?
Our surroundings.
From our surroundings, from our environment? What else?
Within ourselves.
Within ourselves? Maybe.
Maybe.
Someone might say, there's no way knowledge could come from you. It came from your parents, and they were always right.
And a lot of what we know is hearsay and is taught to you by someone else.
Sure. Absolutely. You realize at one point the earth was flat, scientifically proven, right?
Right.
But was it really scientifically proven? Or did people just not have the tools to check whether or not that was fact? Because, I mean, the sun revolves around the earth, right?
They were just too emotional about it.
Exactly. So yeah, where does knowledge come from? Is it nothing but electrical impulses in my brain? Are emotions the very same thing? Is there a God component to knowledge? What's the difference in knowledge and wisdom? What is the nature of knowledge? How do we justify knowledge? What can we really know? How can we really know something? How do we know that we know the things that we know? Hmm?
Do you know that though?
Hmm?
Do you know that though?
That's the point.
Because we can share and communicate?
Okay, we can share and communicate. So do I know that, say, you have dark hair?
Yes, because we named it dark hair.
From
You
your,
named it dark hair.
from
Okay.
your knowledge, what you consider your knowledge.
So,
Whole armor.
you know, in front of you is Lonnie. She's wearing a green shirt.
It's red.
Do I know that what's green to me is the same thing as what's green to all of you?
That I do.
How do I know that? Because when I see green, maybe I see something. And when somebody else sees green, we can point to the same thing and say, yeah, that's green, but how do I know what they're experiencing as green is the same thing that I am? Is there anyone here who is colorblind? Anyone at all? Someone who's colorblind can often not be able to tell the difference in red and green. They might look at, what's her name? Kyle and Lonnie and say, well, okay, I can tell there's a shade. I can tell these are different, but I can't tell you which one is actually green unless you tell me which one it is first. Is that knowledge? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. These are epistemological questions. So is it possible to know things for sure? Let's give it a good example. Is the sun going to rise tomorrow? It's kind of hot. I heard a lot of yeses. I heard a few I don't knows. I heard an I hope so. And I agree with you there. No question about that. Do we know for sure that the sun is going to rise tomorrow? Why not?
Life could end as we know it
It could.
in just a minute.
It could. That's true. Can we know anything for sure about the future? Can we have a fact about the future? Okay, so this is why we're looking at some epistemological questions. Do you think a scientist would be okay saying that the sun's going to come up tomorrow?
Yes.
Yeah. Probably the case. And is it really, really highly likely that the sun will rise tomorrow? Yeah, the probability is incredibly high. But can we say that's fact at 4:01 p.m. today? No, we can't. Yeah. We were looking at the same thing like time. You know, Robert's saying, okay, it's 4:01 now, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, but when did we determine what 5 o'clock means? Did that come from anywhere, or did we just basically create a time system based on how long the day goes? Right?
We created it.
We did create it. You know, we have GMT, right? Standard time. It's in England, if I recall correctly. Greenwich?
Greenwich.
Greenwich. Yeah.
6 hours different.
Yeah, exactly. So we arbitrarily chose a time to start the clock. We just did that ourselves. We don't really know what time it is. We choose to say what time it is based on this structure that we created. When I say the sun is going to rise tomorrow, can the sun ever actually rise? What's the sun really doing?
That could be rising though.
Is it really floating? What's it floating in?
Gravity.
Does something in gravity float? It's actually moving. It does have its own gravity, so do you. So does your soda. Right? What doesn't have its own gravity? If it exists, does it have gravity? Well, maybe not, because my mind exists, right? Or does it? Wow, now you see, this is one of the reasons that people often call philosophy mental masturbation. Because it doesn't necessarily produce anything. But see, here's the way that I look at it. I'm guessing there's at least a few of you in the room who will still admit that masturbation is fun. And philosophy can be that too. So can we trust our senses? Has anyone ever seen something that wasn't really there? Yeah? If that happened to you once, how can you believe anything?
But how do
It
you know
happened
you
to you
saw something?
once. What's that?
How do you know you saw something?
Wait, who said that? I didn't see. How do you know you saw something?
Right. If it wasn't there. Like, how do you know it wasn't there but you saw it?
I saw it.
Like, did you really see something?
Have you ever heard of someone who claimed to see something and then you go look at the video of that exact thing and it wasn't there?
No.
Now you've got two opposing viewpoints of an event. How do we know? Do we actually know even if we think we do? Can we really trust our senses? There's something called synesthesia, which is when different senses get crossed in the brain, like crosswired. You can smell colors. You can taste shapes. It's really weird. Our brains sometimes, in fact, I had a mix called synesthetic tryptamine. Kind of cool.
What?
Synesthetic tryptamine. When your stuff gets crossed, that can actually happen. It is real. How do we trust our senses if that is possible, even in our biological bodies? Can we trust our faculties of reason? Can we take the world at face value? How do we know that we're not actually asleep right now and in a dream? Anyone ever seen The Matrix? Or Inception? You know, welcome to the desert of the real, people. Is memory dependable? Ooh, this is a big one. What do you guys think?
No.
No? See, this one's starting to go a little bit closer to becoming neuroscience. They've done so much study in this now. Did you know that every single one of us has false memories?
No.
Have any of the girls in here ever had a boyfriend or a husband that remembered an event differently than the way it really happened? Yeah? That's because those boys have false memories. Yes.
A memory isn't like an account of the event, it's an account of the way you experience it.
That's exactly right. Our memories don't work like a video recorder. And our brains don't work like a hard drive that only has a certain amount of space. When we experience something, that's why dialogue is so important. We have emotions connected to it. We live the experience, and our memories are based on that. If you tell yourself something in a negative format, the brain doesn't know how to conceive of that. If you say, don't forget to put gas in your car after work, you know what the brain hears? Forget to put gas in your car after work. Because that's the way the brain functions. What do you have to do? You have to make it a positive. You have to tell yourself, remember to get gas after work. And then you will. And the brain does work this way. It's really crazy and cool. But is it dependable? Not necessarily. Once a false memory is embedded somehow, it stays. I have some memories of things that maybe didn't happen, and so do all of you. Especially that really beautiful girl you dated. So if we can't know things, how do we proceed? What do we do? Well, typically philosophy can help us with that.